New Galaxy Broadcasting proudly presents Integrative Hermetic Health with Hugo Rodier, MD. In this program, we explore a powerful new paradigm for health from the standpoint of integrative medicine. In his practice, Dr. Rodier integrates the ancient Hermetic art and the enduring role of food as medicine with modern nutrition, but also allowing for the wide range of important health practices, including truly valuable medical discoveries, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathic, and herbal medicine. In this program, Hugo Rodier, an expert in intestinal health and nutrition, will help the audience discover an approach that focuses on actual cures, not the masking of the elegant simplicity of many health solutions for the sake of profit. Profit too long has been an overriding motive of the pharmaceutical companies, and sometimes, sadly, by many in the medical establishment today. This is Johnny Bluestar. I assist Dr. Hugo Rodier, who is the host of the Integrative Hermetic Health Show, and we are now entering into a new phase because this is a phase where during our show there's actually an ongoing worldwide epidemic with the coronavirus, which is supposedly started in China. Where do you see the situation right now, Doctor?
Well, I think the governments of the world are acting the right way and trying to contain the further spread of the problem, especially when there are still so many unknowns hanging in the air. With that, we get a whole lot of conspiracy type of ideas too. I think it's too early to really tell, and we may never know. But the problem is this bug is out, and trying to contain it is the first most important reaction. So I'm glad that people are taken seriously. At first, we had reports that it was half as deadly or perhaps as deadly as the regular flu, which kills 40,000 people in the United States. And so in my mind, I think one flaw in the reporting is that we have not said anything about the 40,000 people that die each year, and we don't do much about it. So a matter of perspective, we have the specter of a contagion coming at us, but nothing is said about the 40,000 people that die each year in the United States. So that's a bit of a concern in the way things are being reported. Having said that, I got to tell you that doing the math, if you look at the number of cases and the number of deaths, right now coronavirus looks twice as deadly as the regular flu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the regular flu kills 1.3 of those affected, 1.3% of those affected. Coronavirus seems to be killing 2.5% of those affected. But I think there's a flaw in the reporting. I believe that a lot of people have the virus and are not showing any signs at all.
Right.
Much like people can get the flu and don't even know they have it. And so I don't think the numbers are reliable just yet. And then my final point, I think it's another problem with the reporting that nothing is being said about those who die and those who survive. Because those who die, I assure you, are people that are in some way immunocompromised. Like digging around, I found that the couple that died on the boat, what is it, the Crystal Diamond or something or other?
Yeah.
Were octogenarians, a couple of over 80. That we need to know because I still believe that it's the immune system that wins the day. You and I could be infected. You feel nothing, and I'm within an inch of my life in the hospital in the ICU. And so the difference is our immune system. So I think we're missing a great opportunity to educate the public about our immune systems, how to keep them strong. Are you scared to death of the coronavirus? Great. Well, let's just teach you then how you can greatly reduce your risk of death or some bad outcome if you're infected. First thing you got to do is stop eating so much sugar. The point of sugar compromising your immune system, and I mean refined sugars, won the Nobel Prize in 1931, Dr. Warburg, okay? And number two, de-stress your life as much as possible. And number three, eat a ton of veggies, eat a lot of fiber. And we'll talk about that more later. The point being, again, we're missing a great opportunity to educate people on how to reduce the risk of a bad outcome, which again is to strengthen your immune system through very well proven adjustments in your diet. And well, like I said at the beginning, we still don't know Good things are being done, but much remains to be done in the way of prevention and education.
I also noticed a report that a lot of initially, the people who were said to have it had certain symptoms, but common perhaps to many different things, but they didn't really know for certain that they had the coronavirus. In other words, they were just making surmises.
Yeah. Lots of information still lacking. I'm sure it's going to come to the United States. I mean, it's just a matter of time. It's just impossible to contain.
Well, there are U.S. citizens who have been infected. I don't know if they're here.
Yeah, well, the TV was saying last night that 35 people are confirmed infected in the United States. They're quarantined, but we'll see. Again, I think instead of just sitting there like a duck, we could be doing some things. And first of all, quit eating sugar.
Well, I don't know. The White House has done something. I remember recently there was a baseball, it was a sports team that was invited to the White House, and President Trump got a full array of McDonald's food for them.
I love it.
It's nice to generate a nice, sensible platform for people, who want to get better and who want to be prolific in sports. Those people probably have high immune systems, very good immune systems, and so he doesn't mind treating them to some milkshakes and
right.
Big Macs.
Right.
Okay, getting back to the real world, which is, of course, the Internet. We have a report here that the Internet addiction may affect up to 8% of Americans.
I think it's a lot higher. Just looking around.
I would suspect that myself.
Yeah. And it's sort of sad. It just technology being abused because of a skewed view of the world. It's what I think the bottom line is. When we lack spiritual grounding, when all we see is materialism, these shiny toys are very, very appealing. And our latest shiny toy is technology in general, the Internet specifically, and throw in cell phones too. And so anybody with inadequate grounding and good life and spiritual issues, spiritual identity, is going to be seduced by any shiny, bright toy. And so it's to be expected. We've seen this throughout history. And of course, the younger generation is more easily seduced. And the consequences are beginning to be felt and well written and well documented. How ironic that all the thousands of friends people have on the Internet increase loneliness, depression, and a whole lot of other emotional problems because they're fool's goals friends or
right, that's right.
Not real friends. Look, if I want a friend to know something about me, I call him and he calls me and we spend good time and we're making an appointment a date to go eat lunch or go watch a movie. And yeah, I only have a handful of friends, but I'm so happy with them. I'm a lucky man.
Yeah, I exactly know what you mean. Most of my friends, unfortunately, are remote, and I know them through Skype, or I've known them before, but that's not intentional. That's just called geography.
Yeah.
And so that's a great advantage. I mean, that is wonderful that you can know somebody in another country and get to be good friends with them, and you've never met them. That's an advantage. But this thing about the social network, it's not only an addiction. We see the problem is with the Internet is that it's basically a matrix for a multi-level programming device for companies, for government, for compromised media. So you have a situation where you're not just listening to something, you're being programmed to believe something other than what's maybe real. So that's another part of the addiction. It's like, maybe in a certain way it could be good. It could be like medical marijuana, I suppose, or something that wouldn't be hurt. But it's really more like recreational drugs, unless you're really careful and you really want to understand what the truth is and what isn't. And that takes a lot of work.
Yes, I like that, what you said, programming, brainwashing, those are good words to use. And the shallowness of the information one gets, a lot of surfing through the Internet, very little diving. Mm-hmm. But, all technology, even a gun, has pros and cons, and it just depends on how you use it.
Exactly. And that's depending on your individual character.
Exactly.
And that's something that really needs to be, that's just like getting people to understand the immune system. They need to understand what it means to know yourself.
Yeah. Well, which reminds me of my most favorite philosopher, George Carlin. He has a little thing that I hope people look up on the immune system. Of course, it's peppered with expletives, which I'll take out. But basically, if he were around, he would say about the coronavirus, that's why you have a blank immune system for. I love that man. I have all his books.
I just want to read your comment here to this. It says, read my blog about what is important being invisible to the eye. We live in a materialistic world where spiritual and emotional needs are neglected. This creates a vacuum that will not be filled with goods and gadgets. An internet addiction is no different than a food addiction or any other kind of addiction.
I said that?
It says comment, and I do believe that is your comment.
Wow, that sounded good.
Well, you write a lot of good things. All right, so here we have another little discussion that we'll get to at our next, after our next break. We're going to go into something sort of interesting. High blood pressure affects gray matter volume, which is, the acronym is GMV, and we'll be right back. This is Johnny Bluestar, CEO of New Galaxy Enterprises, a media content development company. Want to write a book but don't want the challenges of developing time-consuming social media platform, costly private book promotions, complex email campaigns, and advertising commitments? If you write a book about your business, you don't need a mass audience. Focus on prospective clients with the best business card there is, your own book. To learn more about New Galaxy, see samples of our work, or talk to us about your project, please go to www.newgalaxyenterprises.com and fill out the contact form.
It is the 15th century. El Tesoro de Cielo, a Spanish treasure ship, sends a scouting expedition to a strange island. Golden statues surrounding them prove the enormity of their find. Suddenly, hordes of ghoulish creatures with scaly green flesh and skeletal wings descend upon them from the sky.
What do you think of this, Rufio?
These creatures are fragile, Captain. We can take them with our swords.
They seem supernatural. Who knows what powers they possess?
Fallen angels, weakened by their treason.
My God! Are you saying they're Nephilim, the devil's host?
I'm saying, whatever they are, we can take them. Do any of you cowards dare join me?
Up against sharp knife-like nails and hideous fangs, the men's swords rip into slimy green flesh. Though black blood pours copiously from their half-naked bodies, the creatures miraculously persist. Can the crew survive this bloody, cursed battle?
Find out more by Googling The Thrice Born, a new sci-fi supernatural novel by Carlos Lopez Avery and Johnny Bluestar. Google with the words Carlos Johnny Kendall, The Thrice Born. That's Carlos Johnny Kendall, The Thrice Born.
Stephanie Slevin is an incredible singer-songwriter from England. She is a practicing psychic, poet, and prodigious singer-songwriter with a very powerful inventory. Here is one of her songs which has received attention around the world. I Know You Love Me the Most.
I may have marmalade on my toast and you may have your caviar. I may walk to work in my second-hand shoes and you drive in your fancy car. I'm down here and you're up there. You're giving me the looks like you don't care. But they say love and hate are so very close, so I know that you love me the most. I know by the way you stare at me that deep down inside you care for me. You may drink champagne to my cup of tea, but nobody freaking cares. And you say I ain't the one for you, that I'm way down there beneath the view. But look at what your poor shake's done to you, and nobody freaking cares. She took your money and laughed at you, and then slept with all your mates and they were laughing too. So let's kick her to the curb, yeah, me and you, for nobody freaking cares. And I know you said bad things of me, but deep down inside you care for me. For they say love and hate are so very close, so I know that you love me the most. You took to your drink and your one night stand. So please don't judge me by your own bad hand. Yeah, stand up straight, just be the man, for nobody freaking cares. And come down off your mighty horse and take a chance on me, and we'll run the course, and we'll show the bitch we don't do divorce, for nobody freaking cares. And I know you said bad things of me, but deep down inside you care for me. For they say love and hate are so very close, so I know that you love me the most. Yes, I know that you love me the most.
We're back on the Integrative Hermetic Health Show with Dr. Hugo Rodier. We're now discussing high blood pressure, how it affects gray matter volume. So it's shown that as high blood pressure increases, somehow the gray matter of the brain is reduced. How do you explain that?
Well, it's a matter of circulation. Think of blood as a river of nutrients and energy to feed terrain. And so the brain is no different. It needs good circulation, good nutrients to thrive. And so the higher the blood pressure, the less volume of blood, if you will, the less nutrients that get to the brain. Further, think of high blood pressure hammering the tissues of the brain, because the pressure is getting to the brain at a very high rate, and it's just like hammering the tissues, and that also has an impact on volume on the health of the brain. It's just amazing to me how 30, 40 years ago, we were told that we didn't know why the brain was having trouble with degenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, and then articles began appearing stating the obvious. The same factors that we know very well affecting the heart are going to affect every other organ, including the brain. So diet, exercise, nutrients, high blood pressure, etc., have a tremendous impact on the brain, and it just didn't seem clearly stated back then, but through the decades, it's become obvious. And I think people are still being trained to think as organs as separate, that there are different problems for the brain, different problems for the heart. That's not the case at all. When we start thinking about cellular health, our brain is made of neurons. They're cells. Our heart is made of myocytes. They're cells. They're just specialized cells. Just like kidney cells are specialized, but they all work pretty much the same. They need nutrients to thrive. They need more energy and information, if you will. And then they need to detoxify, combust. And using energy, they combust. We call it metabolism. And they put out toxins or metabolites, just like any engine. And, we've talked about this, so it's worth reviewing, because people worry so much about their brain volume. They worry about Alzheimer's. They worry about losing cognitive skills. At our age, that, I would say, is a huge concern, isn't it, Johnny? I mean, have you thought about Alzheimer's?
Well, I've definitely thought about it, because I saw my parents in full dementia at the end of their lives. And it was one of the most terrible. I was with my sister, and I remember going out, and her husband, and I was going out of there, after they hadn't seen me in a long time, and I just burst into tears, because they were really gone. My mother didn't recognize me, and just basically it was completely different than they were in normal life.
The risk of getting Alzheimer's or some other degenerative brain problem is fully 50% if we make it to the 80s. And so what's going on? Well, all these things chipping away. High blood pressure, heart issue, circulation, inflammation of the brain, poor nutrients, toxins. It's the same ball of wax. And so that's why I think it was good to highlight this article, because how many people in the United States have high blood pressure beyond a certain age? Senior citizens. Guess what? 90%. And so these people are at high risk of developing cognitive issues. And one proof is the association we just described between the higher the blood pressure, the lower the brain volume.
Well, I'd like you to go into a little more about the physiological basis for high blood pressure, which Perhaps it's due to inflammation, but I want to understand it more.
Well, sure. I'll never forget in medical school in the 80s, we called it essential hypertension. So I wonder, well, what does essential mean, Prof? And, well, it means we don't know what causes it. We don't know what causes hypertension? This is in the 80s. And I thought, well, how odd. I said, well, does nutrition have anything to do with it? Because I was beginning to question the medical paradigm in medical school. No, nutrition has nothing to do with it. I mean, I clearly pushed the button. And I was very puzzled by that. So in medical school, I began to teach myself by reading from journals, not so much the textbooks, which I felt were dated. Unfortunately, the tests were based on textbooks. And so I'm just an average student. I mean, I passed. I was average. I was content with that because I spent most of my time reading medical journals and Tolstoy and Henry Miller and Dostoevsky and Victor Hugo and Asimov. So the hell with it. But the point being is that I began to see that hypertension is inflammation, is oxidation, is toxicity, is less mitochondrial function of the endothelium. We've talked about the endothelium. The endothelium is the wallpaper around arteries, inside arteries, or the cells that line the inside of our arteries. They're cells. They're specialized cells. They're called endothelium. The endothelium is what we call the cells lining the arteries. They're specialized cells. And they're very susceptible to inflammation, oxidation, toxicity, like heavy metals. They're very sensitive to amounts of energy, like the mitochondria. And so when we're not eating properly, when we're toxic, when we're eating too much sugar, these cells lining the arteries, the endothelium, become inflamed. They toil, T-O-I-L, toxicity, oxidation, inflammation, less than optimal mitochondrial function. As such, they put out messengers that they're in distress, which leak into the walls of the arteries, which have muscles. Our arteries have muscles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so those muscles go into spasms, and that's what triggers high blood pressure, because think of those arteries going into spasms, thus decreasing the volume inside the lumen, inside the artery. So you get high blood pressure.
Well, let me see if this is right. Now, if you have a fatty liver, one of the things that happens is that the good cholesterol, which is supposed to repair the artery walls, doesn't work, and this other form of cholesterol goes into the arteries and basically causes it kind of sticks to the arteries, and it doesn't repair them. It makes them more dysfunctional. Is that correct?
Right. So, but it all begins with this endothelial dysfunction, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're right. So the liver is getting mixed signals as well from our poor diets, high in sugar. So, and that's through circulation as well. And so the toiling of arteries that feed the liver begin to create problems in the liver that lead to fatty liver, which, as you say, will mess up how you process cholesterol, which is critical to go fix the endothelium, to go fix the walls of the arteries as they struggle with toil, toxicity, oxidation, inflammation, less than optimal mitochondrial function. And so the cholesterol that goes out of the liver to repair the walls of the arteries doesn't do a good job because it's coming out of the liver a bit sticky, inflamed itself. So the patch-up job the cholesterol does on the walls of the arteries is flawed, it's botched. So that creates plaque. But surely you can see that cholesterol is not the problem. Cholesterol was intended to come out of the liver in good shape to do good repair and make the arteries look like brand new. Well, that's not happening because, as you say, the liver is not putting out good cholesterol. And so, yeah, it can get a little complicated, but if you keep your eye on the ball, cellular function, they need energy and information. If they don't get it, they toil. And so that's the beginning of disease at the cellular level, if you will, the cells lining the arteries. And pretty soon circulation is poor to the brain due to high blood pressure because the arteries are a bit in spasms, high blood pressure. So the brain begins to get beat up by high blood pressure, and it's not getting good nutrients either. And so you see how it all starts. But it's the same thing, So for us to have thought that we didn't know why the brain was getting beat up, It was just a major
bias.
Blind spot.
I was going to say bias, right?
Bias too, yeah. A blind spot in our training. So fragmentary, so lacking in wholeness. So that is why we simply see an article saying, hey, the higher your blood pressure, the higher your chances of having a smaller brain and cognitive issues.
Well, let's get into another subject that's related to the heart anyway. Eating fried foods may increase the risk of heart disease. And this was a report that was actually discussed in a New York Times article. It says eating fried foods may increase the risk of heart disease and death in women over 50. And these researchers analyzed data from Women's Health Initiative from some 107,000 women between the ages of 50 and 79, and then they were published in the British Medical Journal. Well, in your comment, you say, really? We have known about this for decades. Google trans fats, but don't ask the Coronel. You may have had another fish to fry. Even natural oils can be harmful when subjected to high temperature. They become oxidized and lose key micronutrients indispensable for arterial health. So could you comment further on this?
Well, sure. It's all about fats. Remember that our cells, the membranes of cells, are 80% fat. So fat is incredibly important to the health of any cell. So remember that the endothelium is cells, a bunch of specialized cells. The heart muscle is cells, myocytes, also made up of 80% fat. And so is the brain. The brain is 80% fat. So that's why fats are so critical. And I'm afraid that people are eating too many foods fried in bad fats, which is a double whammy.
Yeah.
It makes the fats even worse. And you need those fats not only for fuel, but to make up, to structure, to build your cell membrane. And so if you hearken back to the endothelium, and then you're eating fried foods, and the article, picks on women. Well, this is about men too.
Right.
And then the oils themselves. Yeah, it's healthy to eat with oils, but a lot of them are denatured by high heat, which is what you use in frying. And olive oil is notorious for not being that strong to withstand those high temperatures. Avocado oil does better. But, hey, you're better off not frying the food, all right? I know it tastes really good, sauteed veggies and all that, and your eggs, fried eggs and whatnot. But look, if you love that kind of food, knock yourself out. I just want people to be aware that there's a cost to be paid later in life when you're having a heart attack. So if you don't mind having a heart attack as you get older, well, knock yourself out.
Uh-oh. I'm going to be careful now. Well, we're going to go into another different type of discussion in a couple of minutes when we discuss the importance of sleep. My company, New Galaxy Enterprises, is a California corporation specializing in the creation of media and promotional content. We are focused on original, innovative projects that are good for humanity. These projects could be nonfiction books or novels, fictional screenplays or documentary content, websites and website content, commercial advertising content for print, audio, or video products on the internet, television, or radio, musical scores for advertising, television, or film, video, audio editing, etc. We want to promote products and projects that support the environment, encourage a healthy experience in living, developing, nurturing, and useful technology, and offering platforms for positive, socially constructive entertainment or informative, transformative media. Our experience in creating a variety of products like this is rather vast, and we offer client-based and collaborative products, as well as the opportunity of active investors to join us in the creation and promotion of proprietary products, some of which are in latter stages of development. For more information, go to www.newgalaxyenterprises.com. That's www.newgalaxyenterprises.com. If you're interested in talking to us, just fill out the contact sheet and we will get back with you. Dr. Hugo Rodier has published 4 books on health issues covering practically all chronic health problems. You may find them by accessing his website at hugorodier.com. That's HUGORODIER.com. Gut health is the most academic, while switching off chronic disease is the most patient-oriented, with simple recipes to implement his nutritional protocols. This song by Stephanie Slevin is a fascinating song to unravel. It is a song about love and forgiveness and the impact all our actions have on ourselves and others. It is called What Goes Around.
Say what goes around comes right back around, but that's not true for me. They say what goes around comes right back around, and that it comes in threes. Please bring me rest, bring me some peace. Please knock on my door, and I promise I'll ask for nothing forever, evermore. Rise up from the darkness and step into the light. Close your eyes, embrace me, feel tomorrow's end of night. Ask me for forgiveness, and I will see it done. I know you think that all is lost, and the battle they have won. You do not see so clearly, you're blinded by the dark. Have I not shown you I am here, and for you to leave your mark, and for you to leave your mark? What goes around comes around, comes around. Say what goes around comes right back around, but that's not true for me. They say what goes around comes right back around, and that it comes in threes. You think I didn't love you and I left you alone, but the first step had to come for you to stand up on your own. Need not sit and tremble, free your mind from worry. For did I not appear to you and tell you I am sorry? Need not sit and tremble and weep upon the stair. Just put your hands together now, and I will answer every prayer. I will answer every prayer. What goes around comes around, comes what goes around, comes what goes around, comes around.
We're back on the Integrative Hermetic Health Show with Dr. Hugo Rodier, and we're going to be discussing initially in this section something about sleep. Now, we've been talking about the arteries and the heart. This research contends that sleeping under 6 hours a night may lead to developing arterial plaque. And this has been reported by our favorite broadcasting company, CNN, which is saying sleeping fewer than 6 hours a day or waking frequently raises, quote, the risk of developing damaging plaque in arteries throughout the body, end quote, and not just in the heart. Researchers concluded after examining the data on 4,000 Spanish men and women with an average age of 46 who had no history of heart disease. And this was published in online in the Journal of American College of Cardiology. And you said here in your blog, I hope you don't lose any sleep over this report. Well, if this is true, I'm in trouble.
Well, as we all worry about sleep. And, to throw an article out like this, that the less you sleep, the more plaque you have. Well, that's going to keep you awake. So
how come? Why?
Well, because, see, we've identified plaque in the brain as an inflammatory reaction. So if you go back to our discussion from the last segment, we talked about how inflammation was a major driver of heart disease and brain disease. So not sleeping, not resting the brain, you are more inflamed. Well, think of your back. Say you're working all day and lifting starts to hurt. Well, that's inflammation. Why? Because you didn't rest enough. So the brain is very sensitive to rest and activity. So it needs some shut-eye to rest and thus decrease inflammation. It's just a common reaction, if you will. So the inflammation manifests itself in plaque, which begin to tangle up the neurons of the brain, thereby anatomically, structurally, interfere with the function of neurons. Yeah, think of a lot of wiring, plaque, interfering with the normal wiring of our neurons.
Okay, a stupid question. When I think of plaque, I think of plaque on teeth, which is, I believe, partially calcium.
Well,
but is this kind of, when you say it's inflammation, is there a substance connected to that inflammation that's different than the normal substance, or is it just infected?
The plaque in the brain is different from your teeth and your arteries, but essentially it's the same thing. Just think of scarring, if you will. You can think of it that way too. Not worth getting into the details of the difference of the plaque, but it's called plaque because it fits into that family, a reactive tissue to inflammation.
Okay.
The grounding itself, it depends on what organ we're talking about, as you well put it. So it's essentially the same thing. And so, my advice to insomniacs is not to freak out. We've done good studies where insomniacs who think they've been up all night, they're losing no more than 1 hour at night. It's just that it seems you've been awake all night, and just thinking about it, ruminating it, makes it worse. So, we all wake up in the middle of the night, right? I mean, it's just part of life for whatever reason. Could even be stress or what you ate and your gut bacteria, your liver, so many reasons for it. But the point being, do not freak out when you wake up. What I do, I say, all right, gives me a chance to read. So I read a book or listen to downloaded Coast to Coast show without commercials because I subscribe. And my computer turns off by itself when that segment of Coast to Coast is over, and most of the time I'm asleep because I've determined to focus on something that keeps me from trying to solve the world's problems that very night. And so I wake up, I do all that, I don't freak out, thinking that during the day I'll probably get a little nap here and there or sleep better the next night. And so I think our attitude towards insomnia has a lot to do with it. Now, if you're really busy during the day, you might not get a little nap, true, but you probably sleep better the night after. And if you're really, really, really busy during the day, well, that might be why you're not sleeping so well. So I know, some people have to work really hard, and I feel bad, but I still think that our lifestyles can be reviewed to where you work less and drink less Coca-Cola or, cut back on some vice, smoking. A lot of people end up working hard because they want to finance a more materialistic lifestyle. And I don't want to be judgmental about this, but I bet you money that a whole lot of lifestyles can be trimmed, can be simplified if we focus on the things that are important in life. As we often bring up on our show, our integrative show that seeks to also help with our identity in the world, who we are, how we fit in the world, a more spiritual view rather than the rampant, decaying, materialistic views that we see so ubiquitous everywhere. And so insomnia has a lot to do with how we think.
I think a lot of the materialism, another thing that one could look at is the incredible amount of credit that's being used to buy things now in this country.
Right.
And so it's not just like they're not just working for getting things, but working for the credit card company so they can keep where they are in debt. and still
Right.
have all those nice things.
And a whole lot of these poor people are working hard to pay the interest on these damnable cards. Look, I have credit cards. They're great. But it's like owning a gun, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not that I would completely disparage it, because there are sometimes it's really useful and it gets you out of some real bad situations, or even can help you in your business. But it's just a matter of being sane about it. And not being, when you're materialistic, you just want things for the sake of their toys.
Exactly.
Or they're items of prestige for you.
Right.
But here's another little article, which is on the positive side, how to reduce the risk for early death by eating fiber. 25 to 30 grams of fiber daily really supposed to help, according to this article discussed in Rodier, which reports research commissioned by the World Health Organization, saying that people who eat lots of high fiber and whole grain foods have lower risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and other chronic diseases than people whose diets are low in fiber.
Exactly. We've known this for decades. And but it's worth reviewing this because people lose track of simple things like fiber. And whenever I talk about fiber, I have to think about Jurassic World.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, remember Laura Dern, who just got the Best Supporting Actress award. Remember Laura Dern when they lose their radio and they trace it under a pile of dinosaur poop? And she sticks her hand in there and finds a radio, and everybody's groaning in the theater, right? She's digging through this pile of dino poop. Well, that's a lot of fiber, because dinosaurs were smart enough to eat a lot of veggies. All right. Well, it turns out that Americans are eating half, even less than that, of the recommended daily fiber of input, which you just quoted, 30 grams a day. And what is sadder is that most people think that fiber is grains. Yes, there is grain, there is fiber in grains. But veggies have 2 to 8 times more fiber than grains. Further, the grains that people tend to eat are devoid of fiber. They're so refined, they're fluff. I swear, one of these days I'll see a loaf of bread floating in the middle of the aisle because they're so light.
Anti-gravity bread.
Exactly. And so
anti-nutrition bread.
It turns out that Burkitt was one of the first. Dr. Burkitt in Africa was one of the first to notice the association between fiber and health. In fact, he noticed that Africans who had more voluminous poop, the bigger the stool, the less the cancer these Africans showed.
Wow.
In fact, why? The immune system, which we'll review here in a minute. Burkitt famously put his name on a pediatric tumor of the neck and lower jaw, Burkitt's cancer tumor. But he did associate, again, less cancer with more fiber. But the association runs through all diseases, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, you name it. Why? Why is fiber so amazing? Do you want to give it a shot?
No, I'm not sure about this one.
All right. It turns out that fiber is the quintessential
food of the the food for the good bacteria.
Exactly.
In the gut.
Prebiotics, P-R-E, prebiotics. So fiber is a quintessential prebiotic to feed friendly bacteria, which will then be happy and go to work for you, detoxifying better, processing calories better, metabolizing better. And remember that your gut bacteria is also the immune system.
So what is the biochemistry of fiber like?
Well, there's a lot of names that we can use for fiber-like products like fructooligosaccharides, inulin, and the list goes on and on and on. But it's really bulk. It's best to think of it as bulk or fodder, food for our friendly bacteria.
Okay.
That's why we have so many loops and loops and loops and loops of intestines. A whole lot of people don't get why we got so many loops. 8 feet of small intestines are coiled in our abdomen. Why so much? Because we developed eating a lot of fiber, which needs a lot of digestion to be processed normally. And so even the way we're built screams for fiber. This is why another clue that people are not getting enough fiber other than the chronic diseases is more immediate things like constipation, like bloating, because the bad bacteria thrives on sugar, especially when there's no fiber, and bad bacteria produces gas. That's why we get diverticulitis. Do you know what that is?
No.
Diverticulitis is a weakness of the walls of the large intestine, the colon. And so the pressure from the gas that I'm talking about causes those weaker sections of wall to balloon out. So they look like tags from outside the colon. Can you picture that?
Yeah.
That's diverticulosis. And a lot of people have it, and you can live with it just fine. It's just the stool can get into those tags protruding out and get infected. Then you got diverticulitis, which is painful, uncomfortable, treatable. But at times, the pressure, the inflammation is so great that those tags can burst open. Then stool leaks out of the colon into the abdominal cavity, and you got yourself surgery scheduled immediately. So it can be a problem, but it's rare for them to pop. But it can be very uncomfortable. They can flare up just because you're not eating enough fiber. And so those are the more immediate effects of a lack of fiber. It's worth repeating. The more fiber you eat, the less heart attacks, diabetes, obesity, cancer, blah, 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 arthritis, chronic problems you have. And that's another huge reinforcement of what we keep telling people, to eat a plant-based diet.
Well, just to underscore what you were saying, the study we were talking about found that for every 8-gram increase in fiber eaten a day, total deaths and incidences of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and bowel cancer fell by 5 to 27%, while also conferring protection against stroke and breast cancer. That's pretty good, huh?
Well, that's pretty good for a little old fiber.
Well, listen, this is the end of our show, Doctor. I'm really sorry, because I'd like to go on for a couple more hours, because I feel a specific kind of illumination which affects the rest of my week when I look at what I'm eating. So,
well, good to hear, Johnny. You're very, very open, and that's very refreshing. I hope our audience is too.
Well, you take care for this week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
The Coalition is a unique project designed to empower its members both individually and collectively. Besides individual empowerment, its broader focus is on the restoration, protection, and enhancement of citizen and human rights throughout the world through the aid of its members. As this project is centered in the United States, our first task is to create a website and social network infrastructure to promote collective efforts to take back our rightful control as citizens over our government as designed by our founding fathers. Although we must begin with the social network restricted to United States citizens, the organization will also host a global dialogue for the discussion of human rights by citizens of democratic nations throughout the world. If you're interested, please check us out in the GoFundMe.com website, entering in the search field the Coalition for Planetary Empowerment. That is, go to GoFundMe.com and enter in the search field the Coalition for Planetary Empowerment. For more information about Dr. Rodier's practice, books, blogs, and newsletters, contact Hugo Rodier, MD, at www.hugorodier.com. That's HUGORODIER.com. Stephanie Slevin has had many influences in her songs. She loves music, but many of her songs are strongly suggested by her dreams. This one, however, is an homage to a great blues singer, Robert Johnson. It's called Gifted.
They say you're gifted. You must have got your gifts from the devil. Your lyrics uplifted because they're on a new level. Look to the left, look to the right. There's a devil on my shoulder, or is he hiding from sight? you're gifted. You must have made a pact with the devil. Your lyrics uplifted. Could I not have got them from heaven? What's wrong with you? Can't you see? My gifts are from God, for He believes in me. So I get a little frisky. Gifted. So you poison my whiskey. Look to the left, look to the right. There's a devil on my shoulder, or is he hiding from sight? They say you're gifted. You must have got your gifts from the devil. Your lyrics uplifted because they're on a new level. What's wrong with you? I've waited so long. My gifts are from God, and my name is Robert Johnson. They say you're gifted. You must have got your gifts from the devil. Your lyrics uplifted because they're on a new level. Look to the left, look to the right. There's a devil on my shoulder, or is he hiding from sight? They say you're gifted. You must have made a pact with the devil. Your lyrics uplifted. Could I not have got them from heaven? What's wrong with you? Can't you see? My gifts are from God,